Hi, welcome to Guitar Tone Tuesdays, where every week I'm going to show you how to recreate a famous guitar sound from your own home studio for under $100. Today, for the first episode, we're going to be looking at Santana's Smooth. I have our tube screamer right here, which really isn't doing much. Again, I just put it on there to change the way the guitar hits the amp a little bit. We rolled the tone back a little bit just because the what was coming off the guitar was a little bright. You notice it doesn't make too much of a difference, but here's with it and without it. So, very, very subtle difference here, but that's what we want. The next thing in the chain is a compressor to just kind of change the way the notes hit your amp again. So this is subtle, but it's all about how it adds up. So here's with it. And without it. Now the one thing that's still in here that I didn't use was our wah pedal. I didn't feel it was needed. I know that Santana, earlier in his career, used to put a wah pedal in front of his amp to kind of get that mid-range boosted tone, but we didn't really want that here. I put it on. So, it adds something cool to the tone, but not what I was looking for on this one. So we could turn it off, but we can keep that in the chain if we were to want it for some other sort of Santana sound. Now let me show you what I have as far as amp settings. For the volume, we're keeping it pretty high at 8.5, treble 8.5, bass 9.3. The mid-range we keep all the way up at 10 because that's really where we get that Santana tone from. It's really keeping the mid-range high. Master we have at 9.5. Lead drive at 3.8. We don't want the lead drive very high because the preamp overdrives can tend to get a little fizzy. So most of our overdrive is really coming from the master volumes. Like here's the lead master at 7.3. If you overdrive the master section, you'll get a somewhat smoother distortion. Now on the original Mesa Mark III, we would pull the knobs out to get different settings, but on this one we have little buttons here, so we have the lead as if it were pulled out. Same with the bass and treble, just to shift the frequencies on those a little bit. This graphic EQ here, again, is where a lot of the Santana tone comes from. We kept 80 pretty much the same, scooped a little bit of 240, added some 750 and 2200. That's that mid-range where that tone really comes from. And then we added just a little bit of 6.6K there to give it a little bit of bite. The cool thing about this sound is that since Carlos Santana has pretty much used mesas his whole career, you can actually roll down your volume a little bit the same way he would do it, and you can get some of his earlier tones like. For the cabinet, instead of using the Mark III simulation, I ended up using just this standard 112 open because that's what you would have found on a Mesa Mark II or Mark III would just be an open back 112. So the first mic, this 57, I turned down all the way. I just muted that. I didn't think it was adding what we wanted to the sound. So mic 2, which is this U87 here, I just pulled it back a little bit off the grill, right in the center of the cone there. What I did with the room mics was I turned those up a lot because, again, on the Santana sound, you get a lot of room tone, a lot of reverb. So that's what we wanted to get here, was the sound of if they were to actually have mic'd up the room in the studio, which it sounds like they did on the recording. I just realized I forgot to mention the back of the amp here. So pretty simple, simulclass switch up, reverb about halfway, presence about halfway. Now the last thing in the chain here, I use this parametric EQ kind of just to simulate what you would have heard I should say what they would have done after the fact, mixing this. So I just took out a little bit of low mids here, 346 hertz, added a lot, about 7 decibels here at 650 hertz. That's where that mid-range Santana tone really pops out. And then I just took off a little bit of brightness right at 9.9K. That's just, I think at the time that frequency sounded fizzy to me, so I pulled it out. Right here I have this digital delay, which really, I mean, you can barely hear it in the mix there. I just used that to simulate the smooth tone where they double tracked it, but really, it's not doing much. Just trying to get that double track type tone. If we were to add this all up together, I used 2 custom shop items. I used the Mesa Mark III and the Tube Screamer, and it all came out to $45. So I was pretty happy with how that all ended up sounding for $45. I think it did a pretty good version of the Santana tone. What do you think? All right, thank you for watching Guitar Tone Tuesdays. Please like ProHomeStudio on Facebook and Instagram. Check back next week for another Guitar Tone Tuesday, and leave some suggestions in the comments below. What would you like to see us cover on Guitar Tone Tuesday?